NHL regular season recap night 143, a bunch of games today, and we kick one off with a real important one specifically for these guys, but also for the Carolina Hurricanes, who are looking to catch up to the New York Rangers. And the Canes sweep the season series today over New Jersey. Natchez scoring in the first, Hischier knots it up in the second, and then the third is where the majority of the goals happened. Kotkaniemi and Svechnikov both scoring. Svech's is actually an empty netter. Myers scores about a minute later, and then with 8 seconds to go, Teravainen scores once again on the empty net, and it's a 4-2 final. Both goalies actually stopped similar numbers of shots. Dawes 22 of 24, Kochetkov 23 of 25. The Canes just kind of the beneficiary of some empty netters that ends up being the difference in the game. Of course, we don't know whether or not Meyer would get that goal if they don't score the first empty netter, but neither here nor there. The Canes get it done. Hischier with a pretty solid game, but aside from that, not really a ton of great performances from New Jersey here. Dawes was good enough for the win, I think, just slightly outbattled by Kochetkov. It's a tough loss for New Jersey. They're still trying to climb back into the mix. For the Canes, they're still 4 points behind the Rangers, as we'll discuss the Rangers game later tonight. But today, it's a 4-2 win for Carolina, again, sweeping the season series over New Jersey. The Predators visiting Columbus, and this game was a lot closer than I would have anticipated. Nashville does end up continuing their winning ways and getting it done. It's a 2-1 final. Sherwood and Evangelista scoring in the first and third for them. Alex Texier scoring the lone Blue Jackets goal in the second. But the real story here was between the two goalies. Tarasov faces 49 shots and stops 47 of them. Kevin Lankinen getting the start today. He stops 32 of 33, so a very true goalie battle here tonight. But the Preds just slightly better, able to notch that one extra goal in, and they continue again to climb away from these teams chasing them down in the West. It's kind of becoming a one-team race at this point. Of course, some of those teams did get points tonight too, but Nashville just continuing to be dominant in pretty much every game they play. They deserved the 2 points tonight, and they took them. 2-1 is the final over the Blue Jackets. The Oilers visiting Buffalo, and this one was actually a pretty entertaining game. 3 goals in the first, an even strength, a shorty, and a power play goal from McLeod, Fogle, and Thompson. So it's 2-1 Oilers after 1. No goals in the second, and then in the third, what a time to score your first of the season. Jacob Bryson, unassisted halfway through the third, ties us up at 2. We head to OT, where it's pretty back and forth for the majority of the period. Owen Power looks to have scored with about 2 seconds to go in the overtime frame. Everyone celebrates. They empty the ice, and then it turns out it was offside with like 20 seconds to go. They have to come back, finish out the OT. No one ends up scoring this time. And then in the shootout, it's Thompson, Draisaitl, and Alex Tuch all scoring. And Buffalo wins this game twice, but only collects 2 points for it. It's a big win for them over the Oilers. And as of now, it's kind of crazy to even mention this, but they're actually ahead of the Penguins in the playoff race, albeit they've played 3 extra games and have more games played than any of the other teams really in the chase here out east. But they are ahead of Pittsburgh, so for what that's worth, they're kind of in the race now too. I don't really anticipate them getting in, but they've been pretty good over the last stretch of a month or so, largely thanks to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who was very good tonight again, 30 of 32, while Stuart Skinner goes just 25 for 27. A good night from both of these goalies, but UPL was just slightly better, a 938 versus a 926, and a very entertaining 3-2 shootout win for the Sabres. The Bruins hosting the Penguins in the Big City Greens game, and after watching the Sabres game, I was all for the Bruins winning this one. I realized that the Sabres could pass Pittsburgh as long as they didn't get a point here, and I was like, screw it, sign me up, I'm here for the chaos, and the Bruins did exactly that. It was a big performance from Ullmark, Zacha, DeBrusk, and Pastrnak, really, are the big guys showing up here for Boston. Pasta, Zacha, and Marshy all scoring in the second. Letang would make it a 3-1 game early in the third, but then DeBrusk and Zacha with his second of the game, and it's a 5-1 final here for Boston. Pittsburgh was probably the better of the two teams. They outshoot Boston damn near 2-1, 39-23, but Ullmark was way better than Nedeljkovic. He goes 38 for 39, while Nettie goes just 18 for 23, simply not good enough here at all. Pittsburgh, again, still just struggling pretty mightily over the last couple weeks, despite trying to fight for a playoff spot, obviously without Gensel now, so kind of is what it is. I don't know if I expect this team to crawl back in, considering the way that some of these other teams are playing, but we'll see what happens. Boston takes care of business here. They're 1 point behind Florida. It's a dominant 5-1 win for them. The Panthers taking on the Flames, aforementioned here, and they saw Boston win 5-1 and said, screw it, we can do it too. Tarasenko with a pretty big night in his Panthers debut. He gets 2 goals and an assist. Sharon Govich would make it a 1-1 game after Tank scored his first, but then Barkov, Bennett, and Tarasenko all scoring before the end of the period, so it's 4-1 Cats after 2. Kevin Stenlund adds a shorthanded goal 4.5 minutes into the third frame, and it's pretty much over from there. Jacob Markstrom was not great in this one. He goes 26 for 31 for an .839 save percentage, while Anthony Stolarz continues to be very, very good behind Sergei Bobrovsky here. He goes 34 for 35 for a .971. One of his better games of the year for sure, but he's been pretty steady back there when called upon, and tonight, of course, just continues that trend. It's a really solid win for the Panthers, 5-1 over Calgary. The Lightning hosting Philadelphia, and this one was a wild game. The Lightning just dominated, plain and simple. 4 goals in the first, Hedman, Paul, Sheary, and Point. Torts gets tossed. He says, no, I'm not fucking leaving. He gets kicked out anyway because you don't make the rules. Duclair with his first as a Lightning in the second period, and then Hedman and Brandon Bagel scoring in the third. And again, it's a 7-1 win here for the Bolts. The shots are actually pretty even, 26-25 in favor of Tampa Bay, but they were the way better of the two teams, especially in that first period, 16-9 in the shots there. And of course, from there, the game's pretty much done. Arison only played the first period. He gives up 4, on 15 shots. Vasi, meanwhile, with the shutout, 25 of 25, not overly busy, but he will take it. He's been a little bit hot and cold lately, so this is one he will definitely use to boost the confidence. The Bolts needed the 2 points pretty desperately as well. They're getting chased down by a lot of these teams in the East, so they'll take this one, a 7-0 win over Philadelphia. The Leafs taking on the Canadiens, a game that never seems like it should be this close, but always ends up being pretty close between these two teams. Mike Matheson, the lone goal scorer in the first, Bobby McMahon and Max Domi in the second, and then Newhook and Tavares with his 20th of the year in the third, and it's a 3-2 regulation win for the Leafs. Yuri Slafkovsky also added 2 assists in this one. He looked pretty good. He's been pretty good over this season, but has been a little bit quiet statistically lately. Samsonov was rock solid back there for the Leafs. He goes 29 of 31 for a .935, while Montembeault 24 of 27 for an .889. This is a big win for the Leafs. They've been a little bit hot and cold over the last week or so. Good to get a win over a team that they should be beating, especially down the stretch here. You don't want to lose these kind of gimme games against teams that are really not playing for all that much. I would frankly rather lose the 2 points than gain them. So they take care of business tonight, probably a little bit closer than they would have liked, but 2 points is 2 points, 3-2 for the Leafs over the Canadiens. The Capitals taking on the Blackhawks in this game. Like that Leafs game went the way of the Capitals, as it should. They score 3 goals in the first, and from there kind of put it on cruise control. Sonny Milano would add 1 in the second, but in the first it was Lapierre, Scarboza, and Tom Wilson. In the third, Tyler Johnson does ruin the shutout bid for Charlie Lindgren, and Connor Bedard tried to end Malenstein and Mika Michael's careers with a gross stick-handling move at the blue line, but it didn't result in anything. So that was probably more of a highlight for this game than the Johnson goal was for the Blackhawks, but nonetheless, the Caps get it done. They do actually get outshot by Chicago, 32-26, but again, Charlie Lindgren really good in this one. He's been very good for the last couple weeks, 31 of 32, while Mrazek, again, rarely the less busy of the 2 goalies, but that was the case tonight. He goes 22 for 26 in the losing effort. It's a big 2 points for the Caps. They are now 3 points behind the Detroit Red Wings with 2 games in hand, so a big win for them. They'll take it over again, a team they should be beating. 4-1's the final. The Sharks hosting the Ottawa Senators in a game between two teams that the Senators should win this game on paper for sure, but the Sharks get it done. Thomas Bordeleau with 2 goals, both on the power play. Tim Stützle, the lone goal for the Senators, also on the power play. Magnus Krona is apparently just better than Jonas Korpisalo. I guess we should have anticipated that after the year that Korpisalo's had, but Krona goes 31 of 32, while Korpisalo can only stop 19 of the Sharks' 21. The goaltending woes just continue for Ottawa. I mean, again, it's 2 power play goals. It is what it is, but, come on, it's the Sharks, man. Just get the win. 2-1 Sharks over Ottawa. The Rangers taking on the Blues, and I'm just now realizing after going through all the games tonight that none of these teams just outside the playoffs in the West picked up any points tonight, actually. So I correct my statement from earlier. The Rangers beat St. Louis 4-0 in this one. Trocheck and Vesey in the first, no goals in the second, and then Kreider and Kakko in the third. I did not realize Chris Kreider had 32 goals. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that because he always finds a way to sneakily score 30, 35 goals at least. And here again, he's still got 20 games to go, so we'll see what happens there. Igor Shesterkin, 26 save shutout. Panarin, 2 assists. Kind of just manhandled St. Louis. They did get outshot. It was 39 shots against for St. Louis. So they definitely deserved to lose this game. They did lose this game. They are now 8 points behind Vegas, 10 points behind Nashville. So these teams out west that were kind of like climbing into the playoff picture really got to pick it up, especially if it's going to be Vegas that they're chasing down, because that's a very good Golden Knights team on paper as long as they're playing well. Not picking up points is obviously not an option. So a Rangers win here. They stay in first in the Metro. The Blues do not make up any ground on either of those two wildcard teams out west. A 4-0 win here for the Blue Shirts. The Canucks taking on the Jets in a powerhouse matchup out west, and the Canucks played very well in this one. They outshoot Winnipeg 37-22. It was a very dominant performance from them, especially in the first, in which they scored 3 goals, and the Jets got none. It's JT Miller, Niels Hoglander, and Phil DiGiuseppe. 3-0 Canucks after 1. Elias Pettersson would add 1 in the second, and Pius Suter with 1 in the third. Thatcher Demko did come out of this game in the second period, and everyone kind of held their breath. I didn't see whether he got hurt. I was watching a good bit of this game, but turns out he was looking a little bit kind of gimpy in morning skate today, and I think it was more of a precautionary thing, so hopefully nothing major bugging him. Casey DeSmith, of course, comes in and finishes the shutout bid, stopping 10 of 10 Winnipeg shots. All in all, just a very solid performance from the Canucks. Demko was not great tonight, Hellebuck not great tonight, 32 of 37 for an .865, but did not get any goal support from his team, of course, and you cannot win the game if that's the case. So a very, very big statement game from Vancouver, 5-0 over a very strong Winnipeg team. The Golden Knights taking on the Red Wings, 2 teams in the last wild spots in each of their respective conferences, and Vegas takes care of business once again while Detroit loses their 4th in a row. Dorofeyev, Marchessault, and Rasmussen in the third, Compher, McNabb, and Gostisbehere all scoring in the third before Marchessault completes a hat-trick. He scores his 34th and then 35th on the empty net, and it's a 5-3 win for the Golden Knights. Eichel with 3 assists in this one as well. Noah Hanifin with 2. A couple as well for Ivan Barbashev. Shea Theodore getting involved here as well. So a good game all around from Vegas. Aiden Hill was good enough for the win. He was not spectacular, but 23 of 26. While James Reimer, the busier of the 2 goalies, goes 31 for 34. Almost identical save percentages here. It's a big win for the Golden Knights. They maintain their gap again, 8 points up on any of the other teams chasing them out west. If they can maintain that gap, they'll, of course, be in pretty good shape. For the Red Wings, again, 4 consecutive losses, 2 points up on the Islanders, 3 points up on the Caps, but both of those teams have 2 games in hand on them. So they got to turn this little skid around, find 2 points in their next game, and hopefully continue that, because there are some hungry teams out east that are not all that far behind. 5-3 here for the Golden Knights over Detroit. Final game of the night here, the Kings taking on the Dallas Stars, and it looked good early for the Kings. Kevin Fiala, his 21st of the year, just 30 seconds in. That's the only goal of the first, but from there, it's pretty much all stars, and it really was all stars all night. The shots in each period, 14-6, 13-12, and 8-7. They were not outshot in any period. In the second, again, they kind of take over. Foxa and Robertson both scoring 2 1-stars after 2, and then in the third, 2 more, one from Johnston and one from Pavelski, both of their 23rd of the year, and it's a 4-1 victory. The Stars maintain their first spot in the Central Division, and it's an interesting spot here for LA. So both them and Vegas are tied with 75 points. They do have the head-to-head, so they get the 3rd seed in the standings. If I'm either of those 2 teams, I almost want to be in that second wild card spot taking on Vancouver. I know Vancouver's looked very good. They have a lot of big pieces, but do you not want to avoid Edmonton in the playoffs? I do not want to be playing McDavid and Draisaitl and all those guys in the first round when I have the opportunity to instead be playing Vancouver, who doesn't have as much playoff experience and hasn't been there in a couple years. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Obviously, they're not going to be playing for that. They're going to be playing to win as many games as possible because, again, like Vegas, only 8 points up on the teams outside the playoffs here. So a tough loss here for the Kings, for the Stars, staying out of that 2-3 war that's going to happen in the Central. They get it done tonight, 4-1 over LA, and that's it for all the games on regular season recap night 143. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I think there's 5 or 6 games on this Sunday. None of them too big. The Penguins need to get some points, but aside from that, kind of a bunch of duds. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for the 5 games we have. Have a good night. We'll talk to you then.